Hi, guys. Welcome back to Marantz. Rantz, plenty of good information, a little bit of motivation, a whole lot of truth, no financial advice. This is Connecting the Dots Part 21. Yes. So this is by special request. Somebody went in and asked me and said, Marantz, can you look into Carvana? The craziest part is I was already looking into Carvana when they said it. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll finish up this video. I've been digging into it. So we're digging. Here we are. You guys know the way this works. One edit. No cuts, nothing. It's just me and you. I'm going to take myself off the screen for a minute. I'm going to show you the actual PowerPoint presentation we put together. But I will tell you this, guys. At the end of this, I'm going to give you my opinion on what this investment is. But as you see what private equity is doing via leverage buyout on a publicly traded company, you're going to find out just how much trouble Carvana might be in. So is it an investment you want to make? Let's see what it is. Let's go. All right, pay attention, guys. This is Carvana right here, Connecting the Dots Part 21. By Marantz, myself, sure. So this is one of those vending machines. I don't know if you guys have seen them before. I've seen them, Ontario, California, right next to the airport. There's one of these, 6-7 stories high. Does it really work? Like, do you really drive up there, buy a car, and it comes down to you? How does all this work? That's what I ask myself. You know, the logistics of this company have somewhat failed for a lot of people because you can go to a website and see thousands of cars for sale. But what does it take to get it to you? And does that actually make the company money? We're going to go through it all right now. But before we do, let's go ahead and look at the stock price. Stock price for Carvana has dropped all the way down. It has lost 99% of its value over the last year and a half. We know that it's been basically primed for bankruptcy. We're going to go over all that. But if you were buying this stock and if you want to see the dilution that just happened, I think they just diluted another 20 million shares. Guys, the float on this damn thing is only around almost 200 million. It's at 190, 189, give or take. But it used to be worth $60 billion. During the height of the pandemic, this company was everything because this was considered like a COVID stock, right? They're going to deliver the cars to you. You don't have to go to the dealership. No one's there anyway. And used cars were everything because new cars were not being built. The chips were on, shortage. So used cars value went sky high. So the value of this company went sky high because they actually sell used cars. Well, here's the unfortunate part. Right now, we're in the opposite. Right now, the interest rates are sky high. And have you ever tried to get a car loan? It's virtually impossible right now at the rates that you don't want to buy them at, right? I remember when I first bought my car, I went to the dealership and I thought, I want to get a used car for a good price because I know they have value. And the guy at the dealership says, no, you want a new car because the interest rate's better. And I said, really? Wow, okay. Well, now look at the world we're in right now where interest rates are sky high. Why would I buy a used car? Well, that's what you're finding out right now. But the books don't look so good for Carvana, but we'll go over everything. But let's go over the board of directors first. I saw this guy here, Michael Maroney. I believe that's how you say his name. And he used to work for AutoNation. And AutoNation, he worked for them for X amount of years before he retired. He worked 16 years at AutoNation. Well, come to find out, Cerberus Capital Management Group in October 2003 went ahead and bought out AutoNation. And why is that, why is that significant? Well, they are a private equity, and we'll go ahead and tie in everything that we need to at that point. But pay attention, that's who bought him out. So he's already part of private equity. The next one's going to be Nihara, I don't know how you say her name, Pikra, I don't really know how to say her name, but she used to be with PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the big five of the consulting firms. We've gone over that before in the past. And she was also part of Expedia. Now, Expedia Group has since been bought out by Silver Lake and Apollo. This is what was announced, billions of dollars, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. So you can already see the ties to private equity. Maybe it's just a coincidence that she used to work there. But I'll go with Dan Quayle. Maybe you guys know who he is, the Vice President of the United States. Over the time frame, you've seen numerous people in Congress switch over to private equity. And that's exactly what's happening here. So Dan Quayle is the actual chairman for Cerberus Government Investments. So you know that there's ties right there with the Cerberus Group, Cerberus Capital, and Cerberus Global. They're the same thing, right? So he's on the board of directors. Guys, once you see him on the board of directors, your eyes should just light up. This is private equity. Cerberus is not your friend, and we'll go through it right here. Private equity executives are socially distant from the subsidiaries they control and don't pay a price if those subsidiaries go bankrupt or harm people. They don't live in the communities they affect, and most people don't even know private equity billionaires exist, even as they make key social decisions over their lives. The point is, they're like the ghost, right? They're the guys behind the curtain, and they always have been. Now, if you look at this is intentional. One private equity billionaire, Steve Feinberg of Sybaris Capital, he's the actual founder, reportedly said, if anyone at Sybaris has a picture in the paper or a picture of his apartment, we will do more than fire that person. We will kill him. The jail sentence will be worth it. I.e., they want no press. They don't want people to know that they actually work for that company. They want to be the guys in the background. And that's how private equity works. That's why when you hit connecting the dots and you guys are trying to figure out who works for whom and how are they connected, you always have to dig a little deeper because of this. Look at this message. They're willing to kill someone, and maybe they're just speaking figuratively, right? But when you look at this, Sybaris, for example, has on staff former vice president, who's Dan Quayle. They have the Treasury Secretary, Jon Snow. Feinberg himself is the Trump's Intelligence Advisory Board director. And Feinberg got his start under Michael Milken at Drexler. So we've talked about this. Any ties to Mike Milken? That's where my eyes light up. That's what I see here, and it's already connecting the dots via Carvana. And you already know which way we're going to go with this. Steve Feinberg, let's go ahead and look him over. Yes, Sybaris Capital. He's been the CEO for them and the co-founder, but he also was a part of DynCorp, D-Y-N Corp. I think that's how you say it. I hope that's how you say it. But think about that company for a second, because that company actually was bought by Sybaris Capital for $1 billion. But what do? They actually own or manage the IT departments for the CIA, the FBI, and the SEC. They literally own all the three-letter agents, all the alphabet agencies. So that's what they've operated for numerous amount of years. You don't think the ties are deep with Sybaris. They're deep. This is Dan Quayle shaking the hand of South Korean President Moon, Mr. Moon. President Moon, JN, shakes the hand with Dan Quayle. At that same meeting, you're going to see those Goldman Sachs CEO at the time, Blackstone Chairman, Carlyle Group, David Rubenstein, and Apollo Global Management, Leon Black. So they're all at the same meeting. They have all went to go meet the president of South Korea. Now, I was reading this book here. This is called Ethically Challenged: Private Equity Storms U.S. Healthcare. It's by Laura Katz Olson. I read this book and I found an entry that I thought was pretty interesting. Okay, guys. If you guys go through it, this is the entry here. And it says, additional examples of private equity revolving door, including former President Bill Clinton, advisor to Yucaipa companies, Federico Pena, Secretary of Energy and Deposit. I could read this all down, but one that stands out to me is William Simon, Secretary of Treasury under Nixon and Ford. If you guys don't know who William Simon is, that is KKR. That is the individual that was on the board of directors with GameStop when they pushed him out. And we've talked about this in detail. But as you can see here, Jon Snow, Secretary of Treasury under George W. Bush, now the chair of Sybaris Capital. You'll see numerous people, part of private equity, that have been in the government. And why? Because it's related. It's so, like Evan Baugh right there. Look at this. U.S. Senator Evan Baugh. We've talked about him before. He was with Marathon Oil at Apollo. He used to be the governor of Illinois, and he lost his governorship, the run for governor. He lost it to Dan Quayle. So, like, it's kind of weird, man. His dad lost to Dan Quayle. He ended up winning after Dan Quayle went to go run for president. He got the governorship at 32 years old. You don't think it's in the bloodline there? There's so much history involved here, but if everyone can read it and understand what's happening, numerous vice presidents, everyone has ties to private equity, and it's unfortunate. Even Rahm Emanuel, Obama's chief of staff for 2 terms, Chicago, he's also part of Centerview Partners. Now, all these guys do business together. I have the whole list there. You guys can look it over. But let's go ahead and look at the deals between Sybaris Capital and Apollo. Guys, they have been partnered up the whole way through. And there's a reason why I'm talking about this. Apollo buys drug maker Covis from Sybaris. They buy ABC Technologies, Albertsons. You guys want to talk about that Albertsons deal? $1.7 billion from Apollo to them. They combined up together for $4 billion worth of debt that they were willing to buy out from Albertsons. Now, word is around town, Albertsons and Ralph's are merging. And that's out where I live right now. You guys know that I have the inside track on commercial real estate, like around here. And I'm just letting you know, that's the word around town. But Albertsons it's never meant to succeed because Apollo's in there with them. So Sybaris and Apollo, partners all the way through, multiple deals. And Carvana is no different. Apollo throws struggling Carvana $1.6 billion junk bond lifeline. You guys understand what this is. I've talked to you about it before. You want to talk about leverage? We can always talk about the Odessa deal. They bought out from KAR. I talked about it before. KAR was the parent company of IIA or IAA, the one that Sue Gove is on the board of directors with another Apollo head. But when they sold off their Odessa portion, everybody was saying it's because, well, Carvana wants to go ahead and do more, they want to sell more cars. And the problem is, the more cars you sell, you better have the inventory, and then you better have a way of transporting them. So you need these sites. You need like 54 lots out there in America where you can actually move the cars around without having to move them from one central location. It's going to cost you too much. So what happens here? They're forced to turn to Apollo for the cash. And as you can see, the giant investment firm agreed to purchase about half of the $3.275 billion of bonds that Carvana is issuing to purchase car auction network Odessa, USA. Guys, they are buying stuff that they can't afford. They're buying this during the pandemic. They're buying this, during 2021 when everything's great. But you know what happens. The recession is here. Interest rates are here. So Apollo and PEMCO. Now, PEMCO, you already know that they've had a partnership before with Apollo. We've talked about this. They've agreed, okay? They've agreed, and it says right here, used car dealerships' largest creditors sign cooperation agreement. That means they're not going to fight over the debt. They own 90% of Carvana's bonds. Apollo Management and Pacific Investment Management Group do. Guys, they own this company. Carvana works for Apollo. There's nothing they can do. Carvana's restructuring plan was rejected by the group of funds that own $5 billion in bonds. The fact that they own the bonds means that Carvana cannot restructure their debt. No matter how much they think they can, they can't, because it's up to Apollo to allow them, and they're not going to. They're going to let these guys crumble, and I'll show you exactly how they're doing it. So this is Carvana's free cash flow. They were negative $3 billion at one point in this year. They're down at negative $1.8 billion cash. Negative. That's up to date right now as of last month. No, it's not looking good. It looks like bankruptcy is what I can see. Carvana shares crashed 97% over the last 12 months, which we've talked about. Carvana's founder, the actual guy who started the company, Ernie Garcia the third. The second would be his father. He actually started the company. But this guy graduated from Stanford. He got his best friend to be the CFO. They go through, well, they're both Stanford grads. I don't know if it's best friend, but they both work for Stanford. And so they're the ones running this company. And sure, they thought it was a good idea. We're going to buy these cars online. It's going to be so great. Well, here's the unfortunate part. You can't buy a car if you're in Illinois. You can't buy a car if you're like in Michigan, I believe. And why? Because they have faulted on, there's these state mandates. How much time does it take for you to get your title? All it takes is one bad experience online, one bad review, and you're going to be scared to buy a car online, just like you're scared to buy multiple things online. But you could buy a t-shirt. You could buy a computer. Those are things that don't cost $20,000. To buy a vehicle, I mean, you want to test drive it, you want to feel, and you think a 7-day return policy is going to help you? That's not going to help you. Not in this case. Carvana's founder lost everything. He used to be worth around $6.7 billion at the peak of this a year ago. He's now worth $119 million. Boo-hoo, I'm so sad for him. The only one who had the largest decline larger than him was Sam Bankman-Fried. Now, Carvana's advertising expense. I'm not a big fan of this. They have been advertising more than normal, and why? Because they actually put an ad in the Super Bowl. I've seen companies that do ads in the Super Bowl, guys. And it's usually companies that are trying to get some cachet, and they shouldn't. It should be companies that have been involved for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, like Budweiser. They need some help right now, Anheuser-Busch. But when you're an up-and-start company, you can't go do a Super Bowl commercial. I saw Career Builder do this. I saw Monster do this. And those companies went out of business, and guess who used to own Career Builder? It was Apollo. If Apollo's idea is to stretch you thin, and you go spend $500 million in advertising, I already know how it works. I'm going to stay out of this one for Carvana. I can't believe that they're spending this much money in advertising. And at some point, you have to let your business do the talking for you. You can't go do it yourself. Carvana's long-term debt. Guys, I've never seen anything like this. It went from 0 to 100 real quick. Real effing quick. Look at it, $6.5 billion in debt. Wait till I show you the cash on hand. I'm just telling you right now, $6.5 billion with a B. Carvana net loss. They managed to lose almost $3 billion last year. And that they've never had a year where they went positive. They've never made money. This company does not make any money. It's never been a profitable company. They've had one profitable quarter. That's it. And that was during the pandemic. Other than that, this is a cash sucking machine. And it went public and people bought it. And you saw the price of what it was. But now you know who owns it. And now you know who's going to own everything. And that's Apollo. Now, Goodwill impairment charge this year, $847 million. That's an amazing amount of money to hit the bottom line. I'm going to show you guys this. The interest expense for Carvana, they're literally paying almost $500 million in interest alone. Do you know how much cash they have? I do. They're not going to make it. Let's just look at this, for example. Ally Financial. I saw this deal they made with Ally Financial. It's going to be expiring in January 12th, 2024. This has been pushed out numerous times. But do you know who Ally is? I'll tell you who owns them. 51% of the interest in GMAC to Cerberus Capital Management, the private equity firm themselves. So they actually did the deal themselves. This is why Cerberus is here, because they were originally here in 2016. That's why they've planted Dan Quayle. That's why they've done everything they've done. Now, in addition to all this, I'm not done. We're going to go ahead and look at, I want to make sure I do this right. We're going to look at the balance sheet, and I'm going to break apart some of this. All right, so I took some notes here, guys. I hope you guys stick with me. I'm showing you the ADESA one. I don't care about that. Let's go to page 18. I got to get there. This is the quarterly report. This is the brand new 10Q that they just put out. And let's see, page 18. We're almost there. Page 18 right here. I put this here to let you know they have no money. Long-term debt. There we go. Long-term debt is $5.6 billion. If you see what's due in 2025, 500, 600, 600, 750, and then 3275. Guys, that's $3 billion. If I told you they make no money ever, why does any of this matter? This will never matter. I don't know what they plan on doing with these senior notes. I don't know when they plan on paying them, but the fact that they owe 10% on $3 billion, that's a death wish. That means that Apollo already knew how they were going to do this. They were going to leverage them, get them to go, and of course they're going to take the $1.6 billion just to stay afloat, just to pat their pockets, because the owner needs to get a bonus, right? Or the employees need to get cash out their RSUs or however they want to do it. We're going to go to page 24. This is a prototypical leverage buyout. This is it. This is going to be everything you want it to be, because I'm going to give you an example. At what point this company adopted an employee stock purchasing program? What the hell would you be in asking your employees to be buying into this? They have the ability to buy in, and you're letting them do it. And why? That money's gone. It's a bank. Now you're stealing money from your employees. That's the way I see this happening, the employee stock purchase plan, because this company makes $0. Next, we're going to go to page 34. We'll go all the way down. Don't worry, I don't have bookmarks here. I just scroll and go. Right here, I'm going to show you total cash and cash equivalents. $694 million all they have. Guys, listen clearly. They have almost $7 billion in debt. They have interest payments of almost $500 million a year. They make no money at all. And you're telling me that they have 206 in restricted cash, which I told you are what? Those are like the orders for vehicles. That's money that they put over in an escrow account. It's already it's already accounted for. They can return it if they had to, but they really only have $488 million. That's what they really only have. These guys are in trouble. These guys are in big trouble. I don't know how they last 6 more months. I don't know how they last another year, but someone's going to tell you they can. We're going to go to page 39. And on page 39 right here, it's going to tell you retail units sold, and then it's also going to tell you total gross profit per unit. Now, I want to tell you guys something. $4,303 per unit versus $2,800 last year. This is the problem you're going to have with car dealerships. The ones that are bragging about how much money they make per transaction, that's not exactly good for business. That means they are gouging the customer, and customers will find this out. They'll find out that CarMax and or Costco would do a better deal than Carvana. That's the way this works. You're talking about $4,300, a drastic increase per vehicle that they're making. That means they're taking it from you. And you think that's a good metric to have? That's not. It's not good to have. I'm sorry to tell you this. It's not going to be good value for them either. It's the complete opposite. You have to change the way you think on this, guys. From an investor standpoint, maybe you're like, oh, that's amazing. But from a customer relation standpoint, it's a nightmare. You try to and justify why your vehicles are marked up over $4,300. You know, at the dealership, guys, I'll even stop this for a second. At a dealership, you have what they call a pact. Every car you sell, there's a pact on every car. So the company gets a portion of that. The additional amount left over is for the salesman, for the back end, for everything else, right? Even maintenance on the vehicle, they have to attribute something to cleaning the vehicle, everything they do. So everybody keeps track of every dollar that goes out. But Carvana eliminated the salesman. So you mean to tell me that your pack is $4,300 a car, and that's going straight to the business, and yet this business can't make any money? Think about this. They're down 25% in sales. 25% is a monster number. They went from almost $5 billion to $2.6 billion. They managed to lose $900 million in sales. Now, their gross profit went up, and you would say, that's an amazing transformation. That's going to be awesome, Rantz. Well, guess what happens? When you look at what you need inventory-wise and what you need to push out, how to even make that profit, it costs more. And it's going to keep costing you more. And what's that going to do? It's going to shrink it all in the end, and I'm going to show you right now. So let's go ahead and look at this. This is going to be the last 3 years for Carvana. This is the 10K. And as you look at it, they went from $4 billion. And total operations, they went 5.5, 12.8, and 13.6. But in that same token, their gross profit has come down almost $700 million from the previous year. But when you're only making, let's just say your gross profit's $1 billion, right, guys? Let's just say we make 1.2, even call it 2. Look at what your SG&A is. It's $2 billion, 2.7 billion. You're upside down 1 point. Your delta's wrong. Your delta's in the plus, not the negative. And you always want to be the opposite there. So 1.4, $1.5 billion is what it's costing you to just make a profit of 1.2. You're upside down, buddy, and it's not looking good. And that's why net loss before income, think about this. They lost 400 during the pandemic. 2021, they lost 286 million. And this year they managed to lose almost $3 billion. That is real. I don't care what you guys are looking at. This company is losing $3 billion last year. And you tell me how they're going to make that back. You can't make that back when your best year ever was 2 and 4 on a loss, not a positive. They don't make any money at all. So when you guys are asking me to connect these dots, I can. Cerberus Capital to Apollo to this balance sheet that I've never seen anything like this in my life. I've never seen it. You're talking about from 1.1 billion on cash all the way to 3.8 billion, $3.9 billion. And all they have to show for it is $600 million. They make no money. They make no money at all. It will go bankrupt because now that I know what I know, they're not going to allow them to restructure the debt. Apollo owns the company. Literally, Apollo owns this company. And they know it. They know they have them stuck in a hard spot. So would I ever put $1 into this damn thing? No, not as an investor. As a day trader, I'm sure somebody's going to get excited. $13. Oh, it doesn't cost me much. It always costs you something. It's a percentage of what you're willing to lose. And just know, private equity is here. Cerberus Capital is here. Apollo is here. And they own the whole damn company. I connect those dots. And what do? I run. Still undefeated, guys. GameStop. Can't stop, won't stop. GameStop. I'm still buying that one. This shit right here, Carvana, never. Peace.